The largemouth bass is the most widely distributed game fish in North America, as well as one of the most popular game fishes in the world. Subspecies of largemouth bass include the smaller, slower-growing northern largemouth and the bigger, faster-growing Florida largemouth. These bass are part of the sunfish family, and accordingly they spawn in shallows when the water temperature reaches low to mid-60s. And during this period, males guarding nests become very easy to catch by pitching any lure in its proximity. Trophy females are easiest to catch pre-spawn. Largemouth bass typically eat fish, crayfish, frogs, and insects, but they also occasionally eat snakes, turtles, mice, and birds. Most of the time, largemouth bass stay in relatively shallow water. They are attracted to features such as emergent vegetation, floating vegetation, submerged weeds, submerged stumps, brush, and limbs, and bridge pilings and boat docks. In natural lakes, they congregate in the warmer shallows and mud-bottom areas, slot bays, underwater humps, and points. In man-made lakes, they stay around man-made points, old river channel bends, attached creeks, man-made features, humps, and timbered flats. You must adapt your presentation depending on the circumstances. For example, topwaters are effective in summer, in low light periods when the water is clear with natural colored lures, and all day when the water is murky with bright colored lures. When bass are roaming for bait fish, crankbaits and spinnerbaits are most effective. In dense weeds or brush, weedless lures such as Texas or Carolina rigged worms, jig and pigs, or spinnerbaits work best. Spinnerbaits are an especially effective all-season largemouth bass lure. They are virtually snagless and work in the densest of cover. They can be fished by slow rolling, helicoptering along the bottom, and bulging just under the surface. Colorado blades spin better on a slow retrieve and ride higher, while willow blades can be retrieved faster. Minnow plugs, standard crankbaits, and lipless crankbaits work for largemouth bass with a steady retrieve and have a tight wiggle, and some minnow plugs have a long bill built in for deep diving. Trolling plugs work similarly and are used to cover lots of water. These lures are often used as search baits. Topwater lures for largemouth bass include stick baits, chuggers, crawlers, prop baits, frogs and rats, and buzz baits. Perhaps most popular are topwater frogs and buzz baits, as they are weedless and can be fished through heavy emergent vegetation. With all topwater lures, one must wait to feel the fish before setting the hook to have an effective hook set. Jigs work for bass when they are active or sluggish, and work well to catch largemouth bass out of tight spots. Most commonly used is the jig and pig, a weedless football-headed jig with rubber strand skirt that can be tipped with a soft plastic such as rubber crawfish. Blade baits and jigging spoons also work for jigging vertically. Weedless spoons can be burned through vegetation, bumping against stalks and enticing a strike. Soft plastics are most widely used for largemouth bass. Plastic worms, creatures, crawfish, tubes, and lizards rigged weedless on a free hook, Carolina rig, or Texas rig have significant action when fished slowly and can be infused with scent. They are generally dragged along the bottom. Soft stick baits can be rigged similarly, but are worked through weeds with an erratic action. Stable weather incites a steady pattern of eating. Fronts cause largemouth bass to eat heavily before and very little after. Wind can push organisms to shore, so bait fish follow, and the bass may move in to feed. Rain often improves bass fishing, and largemouth bass will often move into murky water to feed. Often structure is key to finding largemouth bass. Structure includes any change along the bottom, including points, sunken islands, rock reefs, creek channels, shoreline breaks, weed edges, timber, and man-made brush shelters. Hitting as many structured areas as possible with search baits will improve the trip success rate. Shallow structure bass often feed more aggressively, so search baits, line, shallow running crankbaits, spinner baits are used to cover a lot of water. Deep structure bass will sometimes feed aggressively and fall victim to deep diving crankbaits, but other times finesse with a jig and pig, heavy spinner bait, or jigging spoon is necessary. Summer largemouth bass feed in shallow weeds in early morning and evening and go deeper in the middle of the day, unless of course the shallow weeds provide adequate cover from the sun. When deep, they congregate along weed lines, and irregularities along the weed bed hold for the most fish. Largemouth bass lay in shallow vegetation all day in spring and early fall. Along man-made features, such as bridge abutments and docks, largemouth bass will lay tight to the structure on the shady side. This situation is where pitching and skipping lures comes in handy. Suspended bass can be caught by counting down a jig to various depths or working live bait fish under a slip float. However, if bass are suspended deep, they are likely not feeding and won't bite. By midsummer, hatchling panfish are abundant and snack-sized, and the sun is highest and hottest, leaving largemouth bass less inclined to chase lures and forcing them under slop and docks. Early and late in the day, they are often the midsummer feeding periods. Cold fronts incite a period of poor fishing, where fishing deeper and murkier, working smaller lures slowly, or using live bait may improve odds. Reservoirs with large populations of shad or similar bait fish will instigate largemouth bass into forming large feeding schools in late summer or fall. Clear water or boating traffic during summer days may instigate deep largemouth bass to move shallow and feed at night. Topwater lures will gather bites from aggressive fish, while dark vibrating lures or soft plastics working with a slow retrieve will attract other fish.